Good morning, Shannon. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Melanie. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Welcome to our second winter. It is snowing today.
Trying to think of this in a positive way. Snow is pretty.
It's very pretty, yes, especially when it comes down and the snowflakes can be seen so vividly, and each one is so unique and so beautiful. I love that positive spin.
Snowflakes are pretty.
Yes. So everyone, today Shannon is joining us again. As you know from the last two YouTube videos, is that Shannon has joined us to talk a little bit about finances as well as about filing taxes. So hopefully you found those videos very useful and informative. Today, Shannon is joining us for more of a personal reason. She's going to take us through how she managed the pandemic. It's been about a year, maybe a little more, maybe not quite. What is it? Yeah, a little more.
Mhm.
And so Shannon is going to tell us a little bit about what she did when the whole world shut down just a little more than a year ago and left us really kind of flailing and not knowing what the heck was going on. What the heck are we supposed to do? Um, and basically just shook our world.
Yep.
How was that like for you, Shannon, when the world just shut down?
Like most people, I expect, I felt scared.
Yeah,
I felt lost.
yeah,
I felt disconnected from the world. I didn't know how to operate in this. I just was perplexed most
yeah,
of the time.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's been a year.
It has been a year. Yeah. And I think that for me, when that first happened, when the world shut down, I was glued to the TV because I was looking for any answers. How long is this going to be? What should I do in the meantime? What is happening? How bad is it? And yet the TV, watching the news like that didn't give me a whole lot of answers because, well,
But he knew the answers yet.
nobody had any answers. That's right. Yeah. So I'm not trying to be critical at all. It just nobody knew anything. But my human brain needed answers, needed information, needed to be able to look forward with some certainty.
Yeah,
But it just wasn't available.
we were all going through this for the first time.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that, because it's our human nature to look for answers, to look for um, purpose, to look for goals and to move towards those goals. We had to just come up with whatever worked for us as a survival strategy.
Yep.
And Shannon, how was that for you? What did you come up with?
Well, for a good amount of time, I just paused in a state of, bah. It's like, I do not know.
Yeah,
I have no reference point for this.
yes,
And then I had to start looking for something similar-ish.
yes,
And the closest thing to an instruction manual for how to survive this
yes.
was the Zombie's Guide, the survival manual from Max Brooks.
Uh-huh, the zombie survival guide.
Yep,
Okay. And this is a book?
it's a book.
Okay.
Actual published author of many zombie books.
Okay.
You've seen a lot of his work in different movies.
Okay.
And what I remembered from here, it was the only thing that I could recognize in the greater world.
Aha.
Like, okay, well, what's going on out there is kind of similar to what's in here. So I'm just going to follow this because I don't have any other reference point or procedure manual. So
Aha.
just going to try this.
For sure. So what kind of things did you notice that were similar between the world under COVID and the zombie survival guide?
Well, in a zombie apocalypse, let me just back up a bit and say that I'm quite a bit of a nerd. So
Okay.
when the zombie horde reaches society, um, things can change very quickly. You can have one case and then 5 cases and then many cases. It's
Ah,
just like a cascading wave of an infection.
gotcha. That's very,
Zombies,
very similar.
infection. Yes.
Right. Yes.
And a lot of the COVID spread that we saw in the real world, it shows up in nerd culture. Uh,
Okay.
Maybe nerd culture got it from the real world and everything's just mirroring each other. So
Right.
with zombies, it's a biological danger that there are survival strategies to deal with it.
Uh-huh. So some of those survival strategies might work in a COVID pandemic too?
Oh, it did.
Okay.
A year ago, I enacted the zombie apocalypse survival manual in my head, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. What kind of things did that look like? How did that look like in your life?
Well, I did a lot of referencing between the chapters. For one of these, it's a lot of it's based on the chapter of what happens when a zombie apocalypse arises and you're stuck at home. Hmm,
Ah, yes.
that's familiar.
Totally.
When the world suddenly changes and you have to adapt to it. So, one of the
Mhm.
first things that the guide recommends is to stay home and not panic.
Ah, that's what we were told to do.
Yep, like literally for 8 weeks.
That's right. That's right.
Stay home, stay calm, be kind to each other.
That's right. See, that totally fits. Okay.
If Dr. Hinshaw is telling me to do something and Max Brooks is telling me to do something, okay, this matches up. I'm just going to go with it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and generally speaking, panicking, it's understandable. I mean,
Yeah.
we have the fight response, the flight response, and the freeze response.
Yes.
These are things that just go off in our heads. And,
Yeah.
well, recognizing that, for me, recognizing that panicking would actually not solve my internal problems or fix the world at all.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just going to do my best not to panic.
Right. Yes. Don't run out into the zombie squad.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm. So I focused on that.
Okay.
Sometimes just 1 hour at a time,
Yeah.
1 minute
Yeah.
at a time.
That's very good advice. Sometimes you have to get it down to the minute.
Yep.
Yeah. So, did the book say anything about, what to do when you're inside? How to
Yes.
keep yourself kind of going or relaxed or optimistic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the things that Max Brooks talks about is to look at what resources you have.
Mhm.
The resources can be a lot of different things. For me, I looked around my house and was like, okay, what types of entertainment do I have?
Mm.
Coloring books. I actually already had that, fortunately, and some
Nice.
markers.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, I've already got this. I have this resource to stay calm. I'm going to do some coloring. Lovely.
Excellent.
Hmm. Other resources could be volunteering. For a few weeks, I couldn't volunteer.
Right.
Usually, I foster kittens, and for a couple weeks, that was not possible because they didn't have the policies or procedures to
Yeah.
figure that out yet.
Right.
But I reached out to my volunteer coordinator and said, hey, I know the world is very weird right now, but when you guys are ready, I could take a kitten.
Mhm.
And they got back to me very quickly. And within a couple, like I think a week after the shutdown, I had Kamina drummer cat, the tiny sweetness.
Oh,
Hmm.
nice.
Other resources can be supportive people like friends, family. Normally, when I'm at CAS, I walk around the office showing pictures of my cats.
Yes,
I could not do that.
I know.
So on social media, I started sharing pictures of my cats, and I've had something going for about a year of the new office cats of Calgary.
Oh,
And,
neat.
and I've just been showing pictures of my cats to friends and family and coworkers, and just apparently when the zombie apocalypse happens or the world is in crisis, I respond by just shouting out to the world, do you want to see pictures of my cats?
Yeah. I I think animals can be very therapeutic in times of distress.
Yeah.
You know, having them, acquiring them, taking pictures of them, looking at, you know, pictures and videos of hilarious animals. I think all of that can bring us joy and calmness.
And looking at resources, I am speaking from a position of privilege and security. I am aware of that. So when I looked at my resources, I was like, okay, I've got food in the house. I've
Right,
got 4 rolls of toilet paper.
right.
Four. It got down to 4.
Oh boy.
It's like I've got a job. I've
Yeah.
got a partner who is an awesome, fantastic human. It's like I could
Mhm.
count the assets that I had and
Yeah. Right.
mentally use them to fight the zombie apocalypse for the horde.
So you focused on what you had as
Yeah,
opposed to what you no longer had control over or had at your disposal.
while being very aware of everything that I didn't have,
Right.
that we didn't have. The loss was catastrophic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like not even Tim Hortons was open, and I don't like Tim Hortons all that much. It's lovely. But it's not near and dear to my heart. But when I would walk outside my house and I'd see that it was closed, I was like, the world is severely broken.
That's right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I had to decide to focus very hard on what resources I had
Mm-hmm.
because the loss was so great.
Yes.
And we lost, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was the end of the world as I knew it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. So really focusing in on identifying what resources you did have at your disposal
Mm-hmm.
and then being thankful for those things and allowing yourself your negative thoughts to be transformed into, okay, but I still have 4 rolls of toilet paper.
The world is crappy, literally, but I have 4 rolls of toilet paper.
4 whole rolls. Yeah. All
And
right.
I know where I can get more if there was an emergency. Oh my, this is terrible, and I
Yeah,
never wanted to deal with this.
that's right. Yes.
But I could get that 5th roll if I needed to.
Yeah. And I love how you reached out with to people the way you could. You know, we couldn't walk around the office anymore, but you reached out virtually
Yeah,
by sharing your passion, by sharing, you know, your cat kids and then cheering everybody else up because they got to see those pictures and
yeah.
benefit from your reaching out.
Trying to create normal life in new
Yeah,
ways.
that's right.
Eh.
Yep. Was there what other stuff was in the book that kind of encouraged you to keep coping through something that was so unusual?
To keep entertained. One way is to start a garden.
Okay.
That's one of the suggestions. And back when my partner and I were just like first realizing that the world was really going in a weird direction, we are like, okay, gardening. Okay, we have a community garden nearby. Let's see if there's any plots available. Yes. And then we started to grow some seeds.
Nice.
Max Brooks says that starting a garden is a good thing for your like mental health and well-being
It
and
is.
also to like create like a source of food.
Yes, that's right. It's practical and it's emotional. Yep.
So we started seeds
Nice.
and we kept going with it. This is our second gardening year, and these are a bunch of flame chilies.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and there's lots of things that you can grow indoors or even on a little like a little balcony if people are living in small quarters. There's lots of gardeners that do all of their growing in pots.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Beans and peas are really good for balcony gardening. I've
Yeah.
got a north-facing balcony myself, and
Mm-hmm.
peas and beans are like really easy to grow and they're fun. It's like something to do.
Yes. And I just want to chime in a little bit with the therapeutic benefits because gardening offers you so many opportunities to be mindful with all of your senses. So gardening can be gorgeous to the eyes, or even just seeing, you know, your creations growing and
Mm-hmm.
bearing fruit. It offers a smell because of the soil, because of the flowers, because of the the greenery that you're growing. It offers a tactile, so a feel as you're working through the soil, or you're picking and thinning the leaves on your plant, or picking the fruit off or the vegetables off. It offers a taste as you're, tasting the fruits of your labor. I love growing spearmint, and then being able to taste the leaves or adding it to my hot chocolate. I just love that because it's so easy. That it grows so quickly and so well. And then, of course, if you're growing outside, you've got, you can hear the birds, the wind, all the different things happening around you. So in many, many ways, it's very healthy for our mental health. And the other thing too is when you grow something, you have a feeling of success, a feeling of mastery, like, hey, look what I did, as well as it gives you a sense of control, which is really important in a world where a worldwide pandemic where we really don't have a whole lot of control.
Yep. Yep. Mm.
And I think it's going to be a big thing this year as well, because I just did a whole run yesterday to all the different Dollaramas for some seedling trays. And I think they basically ran out. They got sold out over the weekend. So
Yep.
I think we're all looking for some new growth, and some ways to connect with nature in a very safe COVID kind of way,
And that's actually one of the other strategies of the Zombie Apocalypse Survival Guide, is to connect with others.
Okay.
Safely and appropriately.
Yeah.
If you're in a zombie apocalypse, you don't want to go running outside and like hugging the zombies. But yes, connecting with others is very important, especially when we're isolated, like we have been for the last 12 months and
Mm-hmm.
might be dealing with in the future. Is
Yes.
how can we connect with each other for our mutual beneficial survival and well-being, and still be safe about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you were saying how you did that virtually.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I know for me, I would go outside into parks and for hikes with friends, and be able to, keep that distance either by walking behind each other or 2 meters apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd go out to a park just to watch people from a distance.
Nice.
You and I have been able to connect in the community for coffee, just like being at a safe distance apart outside, to just have some kind of
That's right.
normal society, life connections.
Yep. That's right. You were at one picnic table, I was at the other.
Yeah, and sometimes I've been connecting with people through some very unique ways. Can I show you?
Please.
Okay, so masking. We've had that for a while.
Right.
I don't like it.
Right.
It feels strange on my face, and my glasses fog up, and I just do not like.
Especially the glasses. Yep.
I comply because it's a public health thing, and it's the right thing to do. But to help me get used to it and connect with others.
What's that?
It's an octopus mask.
Wow.
We can have a lot of fun with this.
Absolutely.
So I try to have some fun in an unpleasant situation and connect with others by trying to cheer them up by like wearing this mask that makes me look like an octopus. Like,
oh my goodness. And it's full coverage.
Yeah, good for winter.
Good for winter. Yeah. Did you wear it in the summer?
No, it's too hot for that.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
But like when I went out doing my necessary shopping, I'd go into a store and just talk to somebody about, I want a loaf of bread, looking for some sourdough, and they just look at me on the other side. I could see that they're like perplexed and laughing. It's like, what the heck are you doing?
Oh goodness. And yeah, so you got some feedback from it. You got some socialization, and
yeah, people have called out from their car saying, "Nice mask," and I was like, "Thank you."
I love it. I love it.
Just trying to cheer up the world a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Laughing is good for the soul, especially in a pandemic or in any distressing time.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it sounds like it, interestingly enough, it sounds like the Zombie Apocalypse Manual Survival Guide really provided a template for you to get through this very uncertain, unprecedented world problem.
It provided a lot of structure and guidelines.
Yeah. And how do you feel like, being that this last year you found that as your coping strategy, your survival guide, and you moved through this last year using those strategies from the book that really worked, that were, that you were able to implement. How do you feel now being a year later?
I feel satisfied. Um, I think it's helped me to get through things as best as could be.
Okay.
And it's really kind of cool to have something, some kind of knowledge and culture that's, is important to me and makes me happy was actually useful in
Yeah.
the real world.
Yeah.
The dead
Yeah.
will not rise. We will not actually have a zombie apocalypse, but this is dang the closest thing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of fun to have something unexpected and wonderful just actually be useful in the world.
Right. Something that maybe people might have thought, when all those zombie movies came out and books came out, and we had the zombie walks in the city, there might
Yeah.
have been some people who were quite critical or judgmental about that, thinking, well, that's just
Mm.
plain old silly.
Grow up. You're never going to use that. Just focus on the real
Right.
world, be an adult. But
Right.
really, no, like these concepts of
Yeah.
disease control, well, they're used by legitimate organizations like the Center for Disease Control and Prevention.
Right.
They've got their own blog and website on a zombie apocalypse and how preparing for that
Yes.
translates into like preparing for emergencies.
I know. And when I noticed that, when I went to that website, it wasn't just something they did this year. They've been
Mm-hmm.
doing it for quite a few years, even before the idea of a pandemic ever.
Yep.
I mean, maybe they thought that maybe one day it would happen, but there was no sign of a pandemic at the time when they put that up on their website. So it was really cool to see that they'd used that notion already.
Dealing with zombie apocalypse and dealing with COVID-19 aren't very they're a lot alike.
They are. Yeah.
Strategies are a lot alike.
Yes. Yeah.
That I was
Yeah.
listening to with Dr. Henshaw and the updates
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
stuff from Alberta Health Services. It's there with Max Brooks and zombie apocalypse survival guides. It's a lot of it is the same.
Yeah. And as you've told us and shown us today, it can be so very useful to
Yep.
helping people get through a time when generally otherwise you wouldn't know what the heck to do.
And another zombie survival guide mentally is like just dealing with uncertainty.
Yes.
We don't know how long the plague will last,
Yes.
this one or the zombie one.
That's
But
right.
we know it will. It will
Mm-hmm.
end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we know what to do in the meantime. It gives us direction,
Having a
purpose.
couple different backup plans is good, like having a plan B, C, D, and E. Like you don't know what's going to happen, but you maybe be able to strategize on
Mm-hmm.
what to do if something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been working from home for the last year. It's like, will I be able to get to the CAS office? I don't know if I'm going to do that a month in the future. I hope
Mm-hmm.
so, but
That's right.
there are
Yes.
other plans if I'm able to access that space, if I can't. And I don't know, sometimes you end up pretty far down the alphabet of plans. You're
Yeah.
like, Plan Z.
Right. And then you can always go right back up to plan A. Yeah.
Yeah, try the whole cycle again. It's like, okay, what am I dealing with now?
That's
But
right. Yeah. Yeah.
eh,
And I really feel, I mean, for some folks that are watching, zombie apocalypse may not be something that they can relate to. But I really feel that whatever it is, we all need to find some way to cope, whether it's based on the zombie apocalypse or based on, like you were saying, in other discussions that you and I have had, based on how astronauts survive in isolation in
mhm,
space, or based on, for me, it's been a lot of mindfulness. But also, for some people, it will be their spirituality, their faith.
mhm.
Um, For other people, it may be, they might even make it familiar with being on a sports team.
Hmm.
There's lots of different things that we can use as a bit of a guideline to somehow get through this pandemic, which is something completely unprecedented, and we've never experienced it before. But we need something to help guide us through. And like you said, our first plan may lead us a little sideways, so then we do another plan and we try to get back on track, and just keep working and using whatever helps us to get through.
Sometimes that model can be very unexpected, and that's
Yes,
okay.
that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, and for some of us, we're developing new models of coping that
Yeah.
we've, not ever had to rely on before, but we will be able to
Mhm.
use in the future. And that's all about just having this resilient spirit and just getting through whatever comes at us as best as we can. That's our humanness,
Been pretty inspiring to watch society the last 12 months and see how resilient we humans can be.
isn't it? Yes.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. Yep. Pat ourselves on the back for that.
Go team.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, I thought we could end with a mindfulness, and you're talking about gardening really reminded me of the possibility of doing a mindfulness on, the visualization of a flower,
Mm,
and how that we can use all of our senses when we visualize a flower, and remembering that visualizing in as much detail as possible in our brain is the same sort of thing as actually doing it in real life. In our brain, it makes the same sort of connections as if it's truly happening, which can be really nice, especially on a snowy day
mhm.
when, we're not able to go out inside and see that growth.
Yep.
But knowing that it's coming, knowing that spring is coming with its new growth of leaves on the trees and flowers from the ground and grass
Yep.
again. Yeah.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. And visualizing it, I think, helps us to remain connected to that hope and promise that it is coming.
Yep.
So let's do a quick visualization.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. Getting comfortable wherever you're seated at or laying down in, feet on the floor, hands on your lap. Closing your eyes if you want to, or keeping them open is okay too, whatever works for you. And taking a few gentle, calming, centering breaths. Just allowing your breath to come into your body and out of your body. Noticing as you breathe in any tension that you might be holding. And as you breathe out, just allowing those parts of tension to soften just a little more. Continuing to breathe. And if you notice any thoughts or feelings or physical sensations coming to mind, simply acknowledging those without judgment and coming back to focusing on the breath as your anchor to this present moment. In and out. A couple more breaths in and out. Feeling how your body is relaxing and softening just a little more with each in and out breath. And then in your mind's eye, when you're ready, conjuring up the image of a flower. You may picture a flower that is most familiar to you, or one that you enjoy the most. Imagine that it's right in front of you. Imagining it in as much detail as possible, noticing the color, the shape of the leaves, how big it is, how it's attached to the stem, the shape and size of the petals. Noticing with your vision in your mind's eye, as many details about this flower as you possibly can. Then imagining that you're touching the flower, using your hands to feel the petals, the stem, the leaves. What is the feeling that you have in your fingers as you feel the flower? Describing it in objective terms rather than judgmental terms. Simply like a scientist exploring that flower for the first time. What do the petals feel like? What does the center of the flower feel like? And as you move to the stem and the leaves, is there a difference in how it feels? Does it change or does it stay the same? No need to judge it as good or bad, like or don't like. Just describing it in the way it feels. And then moving on to the sense of smell, imagining bringing the flower in closer and taking a deep breath through your nose and smelling the aroma of that flower. You may smell the flower, the stem, the leaves, whatever part, and notice if in your mind's eye there's any differences. And it may be interesting to think about what that smell reminds you of, if anything. Does it remind you of a time, an activity, a person? Just noticing whatever comes up for you. And if nothing comes up, that's okay too. You may want to notice what you hear, either as you feel the flower or what you hear around the flower. If you're visualizing yourself in your flower outside, do you hear the wind in the leaves? Birds overhead? Bumblebees buzzing in the nearby flowers gathering pollen? As you touch the flower or its leaves, do you hear a sound that it makes? And perhaps you hear just the sound of your own breath coming in and out. Taking in those sounds, whatever they are. The last sense is taste. Is this a flower that you can taste? If so, in your mind's eye, go ahead, taste it. What kind of taste comes up for you? What do your taste buds say about this? How do they respond? If it's not a flower that you can taste, perhaps just opening your mouth and taking a big breath in and tasting the air around you. Sitting with your flower for a few more moments, paying attention to whatever sense is coming up, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, absorbing that flower into your being just a little more. Noticing what feelings come up for you. Taking a moment to thank the flower for its beauty, its aroma, its aliveness. Thanking yourself for this gift of taking a moment with the flower, to give yourself this moment of attentiveness, this moment of mindfulness, of connection to nature. And knowing that this flower in your mind's eye exists and is available for you whenever you need it. Whenever you need a moment to just connect with nature and unplug from real life for a little bit. And then slowly moving your attention away from the flower and back to this place where you are at, gradually hearing the sounds around you in this very room. Perhaps moving your body in a way that feels comfortable, like wiggling your fingers or your toes, stretching your neck or your shoulders, sliding your hands against your legs. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and returning back to this discussion. I don't know about you, but I imagined a tiger lily. I love tiger lilies.
Tiger lilies are nice.
Yeah. What did you imagine?
My chili plant when it's all grown up.
Nice. Nice. What does it smell like? Does it smell like chilies yet?
It smells like growing leaves.
Ah, okay.
And dirt.
And dirt. I love the smell of dirt.
and it's going to taste spicy in the future.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for all of your tips and strategies and sharing how you have lived through COVID-19 using the zombie apocalypse as a guide.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
Doing what works.
It worked for me. People will have other things that worked for them.
That's right.
That is wonderful.
Absolutely. All right, Shannon, well, you have a wonderful week. Thank you again for joining us today.
Take care, Melanie.
You too. Bye-bye.